ceasefire holds on. Now we start with China. Chinese President Xi Jinping has called for comprehensively deepening reform and opening up for high-quality development and advancing the development of the Guangdong-Hong Kong-Macao Greater Bay Area with sustained efforts. She has also hailed the southern province as a pace-setter, pioneer, and pilot zone of reform and opening up. While visiting the Ying Memorial Park in Meizu City, Xi Jinping has noted that all of China's great achievements today are built on the foundation laid by Mao Zedong and other older generation revolutionaries. President Xi has also stressed the importance of carrying forward revolutionary traditions and boosting farmers' incomes through all-around rural revitalization, while also calling for efforts to educate and guide officials and the public, especially the young people. The Memorial Park of Meizu City honors Yi Jiaying, the late Chinese Communist revolutionary leader and former chairman of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress and one of the 10 marshals of the People's Republic of China. Now for this discussion, we welcome Colin Chong-Yu-Keat. He's a foreign affairs and security as well as strategy analyst, joins us live from University of Malaya from Kuala Lumpur. Thank you very much, Professor, for joining us again. Welcome to
Thank you, Suma.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Professor, can you tell us what is this long-term strategy and goal, also motive behind this China's developing and advancing of the Guangdong-Hong Kong-Macao area?
Well, we have seen how a Guangdong tour is never random. It's a calculated move. And President Xi always uses Guangdong to send symbolic messages about the economic direction of the country. So by this tour, we can see that it's a way of Beijing admitting that the current growth model has been lacking. It's stuck now. So we have seen how the domestic economic downturn of China, property sector is on the downturn, and local governments are mired in debt. Consumption power is weak, and foreign firms are also hesitant to increase their investments in China. So we have seen how this is a message that is a reform call by Beijing and opening up. So to re-emphasize that reform is meant to calm markets and to signal that China won't retreat deeper. So it's just about ideological renewal, but it's more about economic damage control. So we've seen that it's all about this positive messaging narrative being sent by President Xi that we are still reforming, we still control the countryside areas and to bridge the development gap between urban and rural development. And of course, we prioritize stability and reforms, and these are still very much in line with his push for economic reforms for the past decade. So I think this is the core message being sent by President Xi to domestic audience as well as to international audience.
And building on that, Professor, do you think China is shifting towards more state-led or market-driven development under the banner of high-quality development in these Bay areas?
Well, we have seen how we have seen some upheavals and shakeups in the internal political struggle in the party, and to emphasize rural revitalization is also tied to the notion of social stability to address the concerns of the youth, the younger demographic groups. And we have seen how the Tangping movement, the lie flat movement, so the younger people have now practically given up hopes for greater jobs and greater income levels. So youth unemployment still remains high, urban stress is rising, rural inequality remains severe. So these are all the core concerns of the fundamental economic gaps that President Xi is well aware of, and that by this tour, I think he's trying to achieve this two-pronged effort to reinforce his grip in the party, and also at the same time also to want to show that it still has the support and the care from the grassroots, especially from the rural areas and regions. So even if resources are limited, even with these ongoing domestic economic concerns, so these are the two-pronged objectives that Xi is trying to do here. Asuba.
And Professor, building on your answer, this Xi's motive here, how does Beijing balance central control with regional autonomy in promoting this pioneering zones like Guangdong?
Well, we've seen how the importance of this decentralization move to ensure that the support and the influence of the party remains at the highest level in different regions, beyond and transcending the core regions of Beijing and Shanghai, and of course also to reinforce President Xi's grip and influence amidst these new domestic upheavals, and to ensure that his core message of reforms and to weed out corruptions and governance issues are being well accepted by even with in regions far away from the core nexus of the elite areas in Beijing. So of course also he wants to send a very strong message that all these regions are still very much in line with the party's long-term goals, as well as at the same time to ensure that the support remains high for him and his circles from these regions, and to show that the ultimate outcome of these revitalization efforts in these areas will ultimately translate to the success of President Xi's own economic reforms, and finally, yes, is bearing fruits now after years of his economic model. So this is the underlying message that President Xi wants to send, also to external investors, to external markets, to external powers, that the drive for reform still remains high, and that Beijing is still very much accepting this inflow or this stimulus of foreign direct investments and foreign inflow of technologies and capital amidst this new downturn of declining purchasing power and declining consumption power. So it's trying to send this message that growth is still strong and reform is still underway.
Right. Thank you very much, Professor Collins, for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now, moving on, we stay in the region. The Chinese government has stated that it is waiting for concrete actions by the Netherlands to resolve a dispute over chip maker Nexperia that has led to shortages of the company's chips and threatened car production. Meanwhile, according to the European Commission, the Chinese authorities have confirmed a partial resumption of Nexperia's chips, easing a blockade that has alarmed car makers all over the world. The dispute erupted in September when the Dutch government effectively took control of the Nexperia, which is based in the Netherlands but whose parent company is China's Wingtech. The Netherlands intervened at Nexperia, which is a major maker of basic chips used in the electrical systems of the cars, saying that it had to do so to prevent the company from moving production from Europe to China. Meanwhile, China has responded by blocking exports of the company's finished products on October 4th, leading to shortages all around the world. Now we go back to discussing this with Professor Collins Chong-Kee-Keat. He's a Foreign Affairs, Security and Strategy Analyst from Kuala Lumpur. Thank you very much, Professor, for staying with us.
Thank you.
Professor, looking at this, what do you think, how important is an integrated Nexperia is with China and also European market, and what does this Nexperia dispute, what did it reveal about the growing politicization of currently semiconductor industry?
Well, we're seeing now, of course, Beijing has got the jitters now, is growing and increasingly anxious about this move. And Nexperia is a Chinese-owned chip maker in Europe, and the Dutch government's decision to force divestment is hitting China hard. Of course, in China's confidence in these overseas technology assets. So this statement reflects a three-pronged calculation. First, to ensure that if the Dutch government continues this move, then other EU states might copy the similar move, which will jettison more Chinese acquisitions. And of course, this case is just happening just as China's own chip sector is struggling under US export controls and tariffs. So losing this Western foothold and presence in Europe will hurt Beijing's strategic positioning. And of course, also Beijing wants to soften the political tone, hoping that Netherlands will reconsider or at least allow for a smoother exit. But of course, all in all, China is trying to contain the political contagion in Europe. And of course, also China knows that continued suspension will risk that being looked as a retaliation, which will worsen tensions between both the Netherlands and EU. And by trying to signal greater cooperation on exports, Beijing hopes to portray itself as a responsible party and to keep its leverage. But of course, also it's all being, this narrative to salvage whatever that's left. And the message being sent is that Beijing still wants technological cooperation, and it's not hoping for further escalations. It has already been hurt by U.S. export controls, and now it doesn't want the same to happen to its assets in Europe. So the message being sent is that let's avoid a spiraling of this tit for tat move, and don't escalate us further. So what we can do is that we hope for a greater positive overtures from both sides, and we hope for stability in the market. So that's the whole move by Beijing in this regard, Asuma.
Yes, Professor, as you also mentioned that we hope for a stable market, but should countries have the right to intervene in foreign-owned companies operating within their borders? And how should governments balance national security concerns with the need to maintain stable global supply chains?
Definitely is upon the ultimate rights and interests of the host nations to secure their own national interests and security first, their national sovereignty, and this has been the case for Netherlands. And of course, also he has to safeguard the future calculation of its own economic returns from this sector. And we have seen how in the past Netherlands has faced this dilemma of whether being aligned further with the US-led moves to isolate China back during the time of the Biden administration, and whether also to prioritize its own national interests, which will need the further capital and markets and technology from China. So we have seen how this has played out. I think the mood now is to join the bandwagon of what President Trump has started in terms of his brilliant move to synergize the movement in terms of fallback options, with the move to isolate China further in terms of export control, in terms of tariff measures, but also in terms of agreements in technology, in critical minerals with the region in Indo-Pacific. So I think Netherlands now has seen that at least in the near short term, greater alignment with the US and of course with EU will provide greater stability for its own national interests, seeing how Beijing's own technological capacity has suffered under the export controls banner. So of course Netherlands has full rights, and it has to remain in control of external influence-seeking activities, especially also on the presence of the Chinese technological capacity in Netherlands. So and it is now Netherlands is also trying to send a message that we have the capacity also to have our own leverage and fully support the rights of controls by Netherlands in this regard, and of course also to increase the momentum of the Western pressure on Beijing. So Netherlands plays a critical role in this, which I think the cards and chips should remain within the hands of Netherlands, Asuma.
Yes, right. With that, I would like to thank our Professor Paul Collins for joining us and sharing that insight throughout these topics. Thank you very much. Now we move on